Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. Our presenters are John Wang, the CEO of IDEA, and IAdea, Global Sales Director of Signagelive. Q&A is at the end of the webinar, and we look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the webinar.
Good morning, everyone. This is John Wang from IDEA. I'm welcoming you to this another webinar between IDEA and Signagelive. And today we have some exciting new feature announcements for you. So in North America, this is the primary region we're targeting this message to. Good morning. And if you're otherwhere in the world, and welcome here as well. So today I have my guest, IAdea from Signagelive. Welcome, IAdea. I know from her time it's late in the evening, so I won't hold her up anymore. So, yeah, take it away, IAdea.
Thanks, John and Amanda, for having me. And thanks for everyone who's taken the time to join us, morning, evening, or afternoon, depending on where in the world you are. What we wanted to do today is go through a bit of a presentation and some new features announcements, which most of you won't have heard about if you are existing users of Signagelive and, of course, IDEA product owners. So the aim for this particular webinar actually is to look at the importance of making scalable digital signage deployments a reality. I should have, hopefully, control of all of the slides, so we shall be able to talk through it now. So it is important to note, actually, that there are multiple pieces of the jigsaw puzzle when we are talking about digital signage. It's not just about the hardware and the software, but it's bringing that all together with partners such as some of the ones that I can already see online, actually, in the attendees list. And making that jigsaw puzzle fit nicely together is where it very much helps, of course, to have robust, not only media players, but also CMS, which is scalable. So what is exactly the role of the CMS platforms and the media players such as IDEA in making this actually a reality? So we're talking today about not settling for less. I'm sure that lots of you will have had some sort of conversation at some point or another with various, if not multiple, different types of customers that you work with, to not necessarily look for something which isn't necessarily unsupported, unmanaged, of course, as well as consumer grade or even low cost. Low cost doesn't always mean that it is the best solution for that customer in the lifetime of that project. It is important, of course. I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that, if we're talking about digital signage in its true fashion, and scalability has got to be one of the first and foremost aspects that we look at. It's all well and good having one screen in one particular store, but the minute that we start talking about deployments across different state lines or even globally, then it is very important to look at not settling for less and actually passing that information and education on to customers, because it isn't just about the upfront cost.
Exactly.
And John, you wanted to add something?
I was just when you could jump in and interrupt IAdea. So yeah, I think for Signagelive too, we've been seeing customers coming to us with very low price quotations from products that are not necessarily designed for really long-term support and long-term availability, and also in terms of product construction, not really designed for the tough environment that all of us have to face. So I totally agree with IAdea that not only the software needs to be, the software and the service need to be well supported, well managed, but the device, the end device needs to be properly designed. And I think we're all about delivering that value to you.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so from a CMS platform perspective, what you should expect. And this is something that I would strongly recommend, because there are, as I'm sure lots of you will be aware, plenty of other different software platforms out there, but not everyone is made equal from a hardware or software perspective. And some of the things to bear in mind in that respect is, of course, from a Signagelive perspective, we are cloud, and we believe that having a cloud infrastructure gives the customer the opportunity to be able to look at scalable infrastructure savings. So again, we talk about having to deploy various different devices across state lines or even globally. You don't necessarily have to have servers in various different locations to be able to manage that particular infrastructure. And with that, of course, comes the ability to be able to do either central or local management from anywhere in the world. because it is important that whether you're in Irvine, as where John is right now, or whether you're in the comfort of my own home, as I am right now, should I need to be able to manage 50 or even 1,000 or even 3,000 devices, I can do so.
Exactly.
And whether that is to then create reports or be able to send new content to those devices, I should be able to do that just by logging onto the internet. One of the features, as far as Signagelive is concerned, which is slightly different to other CMS platforms out there, is that as far as we're concerned, you can have as many number of users in your network as you see fit. And on top of that, you can set them up to have different levels of privileges, whether they are just standard users, local users, where you only assign specific areas or things and play this for them to work on, or whether you are a full-out admin. Part of the how we've always operated actually is anything that we do is for the lifetime of the Signagelive license provides our customers with free support and free updates. And some of those updates is something that we're going to be talking about later on, but we don't have a yearly update. We have basically sometimes every week there could be an update because we have multiple different things that we are working on, and ultimately through feedback from our customers, any of those pieces of information and requests that come through our ideas portal are obviously then looked at being developed and slowly deployed onto the IDEA devices. A major thing that I also always talk about is because of such a big, vast pool of different CMSs out there, we're always hearing about crowdfunding this one week and another one for another one in a month's time. It is important to understand the pedigree of that company from a hardware and, of course, a software perspective too. Because not only is that important in terms of scalability, but as my question poses here on the slide, who will be around after 3 years? Signagelive has been around since 1997. I won't jump onto to John's presentation, but they've been around pretty much just as long. So it is important that we have the customer's best interests at heart, rather than just a quick win of let's see how much we can gather and then sell up and close shop. Mm-hmm. So the other thing that we've been doing for the last 18 months or so, actually a little bit longer, is once we provide the toolkits for people to be able to utilize Signagelive, as we have built it over the years, and Rome wasn't built in the day, so there's plenty of things that we're continuously adding, there are still customers who will want to do it their own way. And we don't railroad people into turning around saying, this is Signagelive, this is how you have to do it. And because of that, everything that we do is exposed via an API where people can then turn around and actually work alongside us, whether building their own network on the network API to be able to build their own custom user interface, or actually building widgets that will work specifically on the IDEA devices and be able to work offline. Right. So, on to the new functionalities. And this is something that you should all be expecting as far as Signagelive users are concerned with IDEA devices. Mm-hmm. You may have seen some of the recent PR and announcements that we have done regarding the Signagelive calendar widget, the IDEA XDS 1078, sometimes known in the guise of either a ViewSonic or a planar device maybe. It's still the same under the hood. Mm-hmm. It is actually the first 10-inch device which is utilizing the LED lights on the side to be able to show you when a room is being booked or it's free, just as my picture in the next slide shows of the little pictures that I took when I was in the office last week of my own little XDS 1078. Of course, from our perspective, the way that Signagelive calendar widget works, it is a new development for us. It is free to use for everybody, and it's available in the Signagelive marketplace to be able to be downloaded. You can sync this up with a Google or an Office 365 account, and the beauty of it is you basically have a central management of this, of whoever manages that calendar, rather than necessarily people walking up to the screen and booking a room without notifying somebody else, and then it doesn't sync back up to that central calendar.
Yeah, I'm really excited, IAdea, to see this becoming available. This is definitely one of the first implementations of the light bar feature on the IDEA device, and I think with the integration with Signagelive, we're delivering a very manageable room management solution for the market. So I'm very excited to see this.
Yep, it's been a while coming, so I'm definitely excited to have seen it come out.
Right.
Some of the other features which you won't have seen because they haven't, well, they have been released, but you may necessarily not be aware of them just yet, are remote firmware updates. And everything that you will see on here, pretty much on the bullet points that I'll be talking about very shortly, is, again, going back to scalability. And to make that even more of a reality rather than just a nice to have. So remote firmware updates, it's even more important when, again, I keep going back to this, you've got multiple different devices deployed in God knows how many different countries. Or you could be a particular partner of ours who has multiple different networks you are managing for your customers. The last thing you want to do is have to send somebody on site, the other side of the East Coast, if you're in the West Coast, just to find out that actually somebody is, I don't know, unplugged a screen or a media player or something isn't quite working correctly, when you could have easily made the firmware updates and brought the device to become operational again. And of course, with remote firmware updates, any new features which we then add for that particular device will automatically then be added too. The time zone configuration, again, something which is very important, especially when you are looking at global deployments, so I don't need to elaborate on that particular feature. The one thing which I do want to talk about is the web triggers. Some of you will know about this who are on the call, the slight difference here is that there is one particular part of this which is only available for use with IAdea devices. John will go into a little bit more technical explanation of this, but effectively what we're looking at doing here is, imagine that you are triggering dynamic adverts, for example, to show, and you have multiple different customers that you have charged for that advertising. And what you might want to do is, well, you obviously want to spread the love, as they say, and charge them for the appropriate time that that the content has been showing. And with the way that the web triggers support has been developed for specifically for IAdea, you could actually enable that when you are triggering that content, you could show the first two parts of that content, and then the next time that is triggered again, it could move on to the third item or the fourth, rather than starting from the beginning.
Right.
This works quite nicely, actually. Sorry,
go ahead.
It works quite nicely with the again with the proof of play beta module which Signagelive has, because you can actually then use that data in conjunction to monitor and report on the number of times that your content may have played. So it's not only going to show that the adverts were played, but also that obviously the dynamic content is being triggered as you had hoped and intended to.
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of more applications about live triggering of content, interrupting playlists. For example, for campus emergency alerts, for earthquake alerts. I mean, governments right now with smart city initiatives are requesting feature like this. And for a short message that interrupts for maybe 10, 15 seconds, it doesn't make. I mean, the way this used to work is the playlist will resume from the beginning after the alarm finishes. And it just doesn't make sense, as IAdea said, for the customers to just after 10 seconds of interruption to go all the way back to the beginning of the playlist and watch everything over again. I mean, what we're making available right now is that the players can now be smart enough and remember where the interrupt left the content off and then pick it up again after that. And I wanted to also touch a little bit on the importance of the firmware updates. So you might know that devices such as the Samsung smart screens and the Chrome boxes, they do also enable firmware updates. The difference being here, the firmware updates are managed entirely by you. You decide when and what version to update the devices to, whereas with the other more larger scale consumer-oriented devices, the manufacturer of the hardware manages the firmware updates. And we've known in the field that that kind of management has caused a lot of content incompatibility issues, and it can potentially turn the screens black without your knowledge, because the screens manufacturer would decide to do it on their own. So here the point is, using Signagelive, you can manage when to do firmware updates and what version of the firmware to update to, so you can always control the impact to your network. And you can even do small-scale testing before you do full-scale deployment. So it is very important for anyone considering a larger scale. I'm talking about even any project with more than 50 sites, I would consider large scale to really look into this feature.
Yep, no, I agree. Okay.
All right. Okay, so I will touch a little bit on what you, as a user, should expect from media players. Of course, this is from IDEA's experience. IDEA and also with Signagelive, well, actually Signagelive I believe is one of the earliest software companies pitching the non-PC or the post-PC approach. And IDEA from the very first day, we've been always about building a really purpose-specific device that's just designed for digital signage. So we're not a personal computer, we're not a PC. And we are really looking behind the age of the computer to deliver you something that's more robust for professional deployment. We're always designed for 24/7. The devices are really low power consuming. It's not only good for the environment, being green, but it also lowers the power consumption and the possibility of failure due to heat issues out in the field. It's just more reliable in general. And as a result, we don't need a fan. And a fan, if you had experience in the field with a spinning fan, can be disastrous. They're usually one of the weakest spots in the system. If they fail, your whole system goes down with it. So being
I've been in meetings where I've been, God knows why, because we sell the software, but when I've been in meetings and I've seen somebody's comms room or server room, and there have been devices practically burning up on the floor, even though it is temperature controlled.
Exactly. So going fanless is the only way forward. And also, I want to add, we're recently involved in a very large-scale QSR, a restaurant, a quick service restaurant type project. And fanless is basically a requirement because you do have grease in that kind of environment, grease and heat. And they clog up a fan really quickly and just throw the whole system out of operation. And another point I want to emphasize is you should be looking for something that's not based on the TV technology. So there are devices out there that are made by technology that are meant for a consumer-grade experience, something that you use a remote control to click on and then advance to the next slide. But really, digital signage is all about remote management, about manageability, about scalability. So do not look for products that are pitched really for TV platforms. And we are a non-proprietary system. You can customize, you can add using, for example, Signagelive using their widgets. You can expand the functionality of the platform. You're not just locked into whatever is available when you buy the device. We do a few auxiliary hardware options around the media players that we build. We have live HDMI input allowing you to capture satellite TV or a live camera, integrating that into entire digital signage experience. We have the ability to deliver video walls. We've been doing that with Signagelive in several very high profile. I know there's recently one project where I believe the number was a 20x1 video wall, a long stretch of video wall at the airport. I think we will be we'll be announcing that very soon. So it's all using IDEA and Signagelive technology. Remote screen capture gives you the ability. I think this is also in pipeline. I think soon you will hear this available through Signagelive as well. Be able to monitor what's playing on the screen. As this we just announced, being able to update firmware. Supplying wider operating temperature. I'll talk more specifically at the end of my presentation. We should really look into that feature whenever you want some tolerance in the temperature range. As IAdea said, the environment might be temperature controlled, but you still you want to make sure your devices are designed for for the unexpected. The device should be robust against shock and vibration, even usable in a transportation environment. Last but not least, you should look for a company that's going to support the product even when it goes out of production. So IDEA does provide a very extended warranty program that supports your deployment and your device very well into the future. So these are things that we believe that you should expect from a accountable media player for digital signage. All right, IAdea.
Yes, I mean, obviously we've both been talking about the platform from a software perspective, and of course the media players. And if you haven't thought it already, then this is the time that typically most people say, well, why does it matter? And it is important. And the reason why I mention this is because it's all about customer expectations. If we were having this conversation maybe 10 years ago, and I'm sure that John would agree with me, the expectations of what our customers are expecting of us now are definitely not the same.
Yes.
And by that I mean, we're human. All the expectations will be changing, but they expect more from everything, from everybody. And the partners that are being looked at the moment is pretty much one company to manage everything. Because it is about removing all of their headaches. They understand that digital signage is now part of their everyday thing, rather than if I have the money, then yes, I'll make the expenditure. But actually, it's an important part of whether it's comms, whether it's marketing, whether it's IT, part of their day-to-day operations, whether it's retail, internal comms, you name it. So it's important that obviously everyone has their best interests in mind, and from a scalability perspective, by having the right products and software at your fingertips makes all of the above bullet points far easier for you. And as I said earlier on in the start of this presentation, it's not just about the upfront cost of what happens. It is about thinking of the long-term future, and not just the initial saving of the outlay. And my final bullet point really is, if a company is serious about digital signage, then they will most definitely be listening to you about looking at managed, scalable deployments. So ultimately, as I said before, don't let them settle for less. Okay, and John and I will talk now about a couple of case studies, just to give you a bit of a visualization as to how, this is actually real life. We're not just talking about it.
Right. So if I may start into
sure.
this client. So GameStop is the world's largest video game retailer. They are in multiple countries, and they have been deploying IAdea plus Signagelive throughout their stores. They are using the IAdea MVR 1100 media player. It's a very small form factor, lightweight device, and also the XMP 7300, which is a 4K capable high-performance device. They've been using that to drive not only the in-store TV screens, but more advanced display technologies such as the glass-free 3D screens from Stream TV. We've been Signagelive IAdea and Stream TV has been demonstrating this in partnership back in January at the Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. It was been very well received. And to this day, this project is already installed at more than 3,000 locations at over 6 countries. And actually today, I just got another purchase order from them. I think it seems to be expanding once again. So I think the experience of us working with Signagelive and working with the end user is that we are always very accountable. Whenever there is a issue that need us to look into in the field, IAdea and Signagelive work very quickly and allow the customers give them solutions into the problem and give them information about what is happening at the other end of the network. And I think just overall, this has been a great experience working with Signagelive. So, AppDealer, you want to add anything more to that?
I was going to say, we're in a technology environment, of course, so one thing that I would always say is there are always bigger and better things to come, and ultimately neither Signagelive nor IAdea will have finished products. Yes, of course, from a box there will be different iterations of it, and as far as Signagelive is concerned, we will continuously be adding to it. So if anyone is kind of looking at, well, is scalability a possibility, I would most definitely say yes, but you don't have to do it overnight. The infrastructure is there, the software is there, the hardware is there. It's just about understanding the full functionality of what ultimately the customer is looking to do. And rest assured that actually from an infrastructure perspective, hardware and software, everything can be taken care of.
Yeah, and the beauty of it with the newly added firmware update capability is if there's something that we need to tune or add to the system, we can now deliver that functionality remotely without you visiting physically any of these sites, let alone there are 3,000 of them. So the next one I'm going to touch on a little bit is Thermologica, based in the UK. They are using in terms of technology, they are using the IAdea XDS 1078 integrated with the GPIO, the IAdea General Purpose Input Output Module, to enable lift and learn applications. So on the picture on the right, if you lift a cosmetic product, the content on the screen attached to the samples will change corresponding to the product that you lift. I think maybe more on the customer and more on the commercial side, IAdea can provide more information.
Yes, of course. I remember going to this meeting actually, and they were very much at the first stages of looking at how they could adopt digital signage. They'd already made the conclusion in their mind that it is something that they needed to bring into the rest of the comms, marketing, and IT side of the company, because they saw the benefit, but what they weren't sure of how to achieve, well, not how to achieve, but what would be best for them. They had a vision in mind, of course, to be able to add to the customer journey, and of course retail has many different customer interaction points, and Lift and Learn, of course, captures one of those when you're talking more about specific information about that product. And by having that vision and obviously being guided by what the technology was capable of doing at the time, and of course now, they've been able to obviously put this together and for multiples of their stores in the UK, as well as using actually digital signage for their internal communications as well, for their own staff.
That's right. Okay, IAdea, back to you.
Yeah, so how do we achieve success? I've kind of touched upon this a little bit since starting this the conversation today, but effectively think of course, Signagelive and IAdea as giving you the solution, and putting that solution together is, of course, down to you guys and our partners. And I'll give you a bit of a use case, I guess, of the most successful systems integrators or partners that we work with at the moment and why they are successful. And the reason for that is because they are wrapping in effectively optional services for the companies that they represent. And whether that is something like content design and creation, or content management, or indeed network management, connectivity and support and the likes, it is important that, of course, you can effectively provide a modular option to that customer. Not everyone will want exactly the same thing, and I go back to saying that we're all human beings, and you can't treat everybody the same way. But by having these additional features or functionalities and areas in your service that you can offer to your customers, it does make them far more sticky. And this is where we have seen, actually, certainly in the last 18 months, the digital signage and the customers who we are working with, and I'm talking about the end users here, this is what they are looking for. I think we've kind of gone into a bit of a circle, really, and I guess it's that outsourcing versus not kind of concept with anything to do with IT. And the same can be applied for digital signage. We had the original, back in the historic days of digital signage, people talking about why it was important, and then people, the early adopters seeing the benefit and wanting to do it themselves, getting their own hands dirty and then deploying it. But again, the minute that you start talking about making things scalable, unless you've got, deep pockets and a large organization, that isn't always possible. Hence why it is important, and more people are relying on partners and systems integrators who can provide that additional service, because they've seen the benefit, they know what it is that they want to do, they now need to have that particular company say, I can wrap this into an all-in-one solution for you. Whether that's a CapEx expenditure, whether it's OpEx, they have the choice and the flexibility to be able to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
Okay. Etc. Some areas, and I'm sure that all of the people on this call today will be aware of this, but as I mentioned earlier, IAdea comes in many guises, and you will see some other planar or ViewSonic badge devices out there which are IAdea under the hood. From a scalability perspective, of course, all that you'll need is, as I said earlier, start off small and then you can grow big as the time or the requirement actually needs you to. Reiteration again on the free support and the updates for the lifetime of the license. They're all included in the price for Signagelive, and the user privileges to make sure that you're being more intelligent about who is managing what content at what time, and of course in what location. And from a user experience perspective, we are continuously looking to update the way that Signagelive UI looks to make it much more feasible and easy to use for users, and you don't have to effectively be Einstein to be able to understand it. Part of course, that is supporting different languages, and there are 14 currently which the UI is available in. As far as industry verticals, again, I'm sure plenty of you will have covered the majority of these, if not all of them, but from a technical perspective, of course, you can look at anything from retail all the way through to automotive and utilize the same hardware and software for those use cases without necessarily having to change something apart from, of course, the content. Did you have anything else to add, John?
Well, yeah. Well, I think one thing is I was really going in my mind is thinking about a recent project that we are just deploying with Signagelive. I think there's one thing that I can add to this slide is really the responsiveness of the team. I've really had a great experience working with Signagelive on a very large project with the customer and the integrator. And I think we working with us, Signagelive and IAdea, you as a integrator, as a reseller, should be able to experience that kind of support for your projects in hand as well.
No, I would agree with that, and I always use a lot of metaphors when I'm talking to customers or even friends alike. But sometimes I say to people, there's plenty of software companies out there, and sometimes getting somebody to do something can be almost like trying to steer the Titanic to miss hitting that iceberg. And we're most definitely not like that. We are very flexible when it comes to an agile, actually. Hence why we work in an agile methodology, to be able to take and adopt the input from customers, partners alike, actually, and ensure that going forward, any of the new features that are included in the platform aren't just because somebody in our development team put their finger up and thought, I think this would be a good idea. Maybe they do that. Of course they do that, because they have plenty of great ideas. But we do get, of course, guidance from what our customers are looking for, rather than just blindly following what we think is going to be a good solution.
I want to say in this specific case that we're working with Signagelive on, the request was to add the 15th language to the 14 that's already supported by the UI. So I was expecting Signagelive team to come up with a astronomical number. If you pay this amount, then we'll do this for you. But no, Signagelive said we'll be happy to do it. I was so surprised, and I think the customer was surprised and happy too. So, all right.
As long as it's you that checks the language translation, that's fine, John.
I will definitely try to help. All right.
Finally, really, these are just a couple of pictures, actually, of our own offices in Signagelive headquarters, where you can see different use cases as to how everything is being put together. And we've got live TV taking a feed directly from Skybox, which happens to be, I guess, in the US, probably similar to Comcast or DirecTV. You can do exactly the same thing with a IAdea XMP 6400, and whilst at the same time wrapping the message of other information that the company might have. You can even go as far as saying, actually, you know what, we're showing the football at the moment, or soccer, sorry, or American football, whichever way around, and between the lunch hour, because something is going to be happening, we might be nice to our employees, if you are in a corporate communication environment, and switch over to a live feed of whatever the channel might be showing. Or indeed at 10 a.m. every morning, for example, the CEO might want to give a message to all of his staff, regardless of what location they're at, and you can of course use the live TV function in that too. We talked a little earlier about, oops, skipped one, about the menu boards, and of course this is again just to the right of our kind of corporate comms area. We've got the menu boards, which are can be updated, of course, on the fly, so that should something be sold out or the pricing needs to change because something is selling better than another, then you can do so. As it says here, real-time updating of all the prices. But the use cases for any of these types of menu boards, for want of a better word, doesn't have to be just a QSR, quick service restaurant. It could be a hospital waiting room or queue management or flight information boards and what have you.
Right. So I wanted to wrap this up with the number of hardware options you have available to go with all the great software features that Signagelive provides. So from IAdea, we provide the NVR 1100, as you saw, which is the bulk of the deployment that the GameStop project used. It's really designed, it's a very lightweight device designed for an air-conditioned indoor environment. The strength is in this cost. I think it's very competitive, but it's really the starting point of where you might want to talk to the customer about. But as soon as the customer is a little bit more, has a little bit more room in the budget and wants to have more peace of mind, the XMP 6250 gives the same functionality as the 1100, but with wider temperature support. So it does support up to minus 20 to plus 50 degrees Celsius. So in a place, even in a retail environment where the air conditioning might be turned off at night, we will advise the customer to go with that a little bit extra added budget, but for really a lot more reliability in the field. And of course, that translates into a lot lower service costs as well. If they are yet looking for even more functionality, this XMP 6400 is the one that supports the external HDMI live video input port. So that is great for restaurants, sports bars where you integrate satellite TV, and they can even integrate live cameras. So security cameras, shopping cameras. I mean, these can be integrated into digital signage content, be displayed as part of the screen. So they also do support wider temperature range. A step higher is the XMP 7300, which is also available in an OPS, the Intel OPS format, as the XOP 7300. So these are 4K, true 4K capable media players with higher performance. So they're certified to be HDMI 2.0 compliant, displaying 4K at 60 frames per second decoding. So very smooth graphics. They support the HEVC H.265 codec, which is a lot more efficient than the X.264 that's mainstream right now, and also wider temperature range. It also has a much higher performance web engine. So in terms of HTML5 interactive content, this is the device that we will recommend always. Last but not least, if you're looking for a small screen that goes works great outside the conference room, works well with the calendar widget from Signagelive, this will be the XDS 1078. Which is a 10.1 inch wide view angle device, and it has built-in touchscreen, so interactivity, and it has color-coded LED light bars that is now manageable from Signagelive. So using that color-coded light bar, you can indicate room availability status, or just to create a visual experience for your shopper within a retail environment. So it'll be great for all kinds of purposes. This is a simple lineup of the hardware devices that are standard available from IDEA. If you need anything special, do contact us, and we'll be happy to help you find the proper device. All right, Afrodita, I want to thank you for another great session, and I'm now turning to the audience for any questions that they might have at this point, or Afrodita, if there's anything you want to add.
No, that was all from my side, and happy to take any questions.
Yes. So to the audience, there is a panel that you can use to raise your hand for any specific questions right now. And of course, this webinar will be available online as a recorded video, and we'll be happy to take your questions. I think through these two email addresses on the page right now. And I think the collaboration with Signage has been very rewarding and very I'll say positive, and it's been a creative collaboration. I mean, we've done a lot of things new together. I'm sure working with IDEA and Signage, you're going to find the same. You're going to find us providing you beyond your expectations things you need for your project to make you successful. Okay,
Indeed.
so yeah, so thank you all for coming and joining us for the session, and I look forward to being in contact with you, talking to you again soon. All right, Afrodita, thank you.
Thank you, John, for having me. Speak to you later.
Have a great evening. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, goodbye to all now. Bye-bye.
Bye.